This is July the 5th, 1990, in Bethany Beach, Maryland. Delaware. And this is an interview of Uncle John. So what are your thoughts, Uncle John, about the trip so far?
I've enjoyed it. All I can say is it's the greatest time I've had in years.
Really?
It's almost as good as going to a book sale.
So do you think that you're going to come down for the one next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm able. And I will be able to after I get those stockings that Charlie told me to get.
Oh, what are those? Something to help circulation in the leg?
Right.
Very good. So then what are some of the things, who are the people you've met down here?
Oh my God, the young people, this young lady here I know is Louise's daughter. Mary, is it?
Nope, it's John's daughter, Rajarani.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is my daughter.
Yeah, right, his daughter. And her mother I met only once before. Her mother and all these other young people. Isabel I remember as a baby. I remember her walking. If I saw her at all.
Right.
And Mary I remember as a very young girl, very maybe 8-year-old, 9-year-old. Seems to me to go
So, and then which ones of your sisters and brothers are here?
Well, sorry, Frank. Oh God, Frank, Donald, Carl is not here. Jody. This is awful.
Hey, Jody.
Jody and Chicky and, oh my God, I remember he's going.
Well, you did better than I did just now. I can't.
Jody and Chicky, who the devil else?
That's it?
And Donald, of course. Donald and Rose.
That's it. I think of the original brothers and sisters. There's just the 3 brothers and 2 sisters.
Right, there in Stevens.
But Ray's family is here.
Ray's family's here. Oh, there's a lot of
oh God, yeah.
younger
Oh,
kids.
yes. Oh my.
So, how come that light's flashing? I mean,
Because the battery is low.
oh, okay. So tell us some of your adventures when you were a kid.
Well, do you want to conduct this portion of the interview in a few minutes? Because I can make a switch of battery.
Sure.
Do you want to close it off for now? Okay.
In a proper manner?
Yeah.
So we're closing off for now. For commercial. Okay, so now we're going to continue the interview again, and we're going to hear some wild adventures of Uncle John in his early days.
Oh my. Where do we begin? How early in life?
North Carolina. Let's hear about your trip to Arizona.
Beginning?
Yeah.
Okay. I got this wonderful idea of collecting. I think it was 5 cents from as many people as I could get, promising them I'd send them a card when I got to California.
Oh, that was interesting.
And I collected maybe $3 or so, maybe $2. I don't know what it was, $2. And I was supposed to go with Johnny Knapp on the freight train. So we went up to Clark Summit and grabbed the freight train, and that's the last I saw of Johnny Knapp. We got as far as the freight train got as far as Elmira. First place it stopped, Elmira. And they stopped and the railroad police came down. Oh, I promised my mother I'd ride every day, right? The railroad police came down and brought us to the magistrate. I said, oh my God, listen, they won't hear from me. I'll be in jail for 30 days. In Elmira, 100 miles from home. And everyone that was picked out, must have been 15 of us, the magistrate would say, what were you doing riding the freight train, or where are you going? And everyone said the same thing. I don't know where I'm going, and the words to that effect. And I was the last one. So he asked me where I was going. I said, I'm going to California. He said, what are you going to do there? And I said, I have a friend who is a man I know has a butcher shop, and he told me to hire him. And he gave them all 30 days in jail. And he said to me, 30 days suspended because you've got a place to go to stay off the freight train. So that was the first day out. Next day or that night, I don't know, we began hitchhiking. And I just hitched. until I got to somewhere on the other side of St. Louis. And by that time, we're getting dirty from hitchhiking and stuff. No one picked you up. And I got jumping on freight trains again. I wound up trying to think of, it seems like a nightmare now. But I wound up in a little town called Tucumcari, New Mexico. Is there Tucumcari?
Sure is, yeah.
Tucumcari. And again, there was the trouble with the police. And, but I think they only kept us overnight. At least I got out. I was in jail overnight. And I don't know how many days that took. This was in 1933. And the next day I remember being in Tucson. There was a railroad division where they changed freight trains. And in Tucson there was a hobo jungle, you know. And to Tucson, there's nothing to Tucson at all, if I remember correctly. There's just no hard-hitting town. But right outside the railroad yards, where they refrigerated cars would be coming from California with ice on that. They had to actually put ice in those. And they'd stop there as a division point, and the water would melt out of these freight cars. And where it hit the sand, it formed almost like a little creek. There was that much of it, and a lot of green grass. You know, it was all desert all around, except in where this water came out of these freight cars. And formed some kind of a channel. And there's green grass for about 30, 40 feet inside of this water right now. And I think I don't know why, I couldn't have started with $3. I had 25 cents left. I had 25 cents. And it was close to Mother's Day. And I thought, well, I'll send a card, you know, buy a 3-cent card. In those days, I think postage for a card was a penny. And I figured if I sent a card for Mother's Day. And I was washing my clothes in the stream, and then I realized I lost 25 cents. You know. So I got looked on the grass for it, and somebody said, "What are you looking for?" Made a mistake to say I lost a quarter. And no time at all, everybody was digging through the grass. You know. Well, and I was naive enough to think they were trying to help me. Help me find it. And all of a sudden, they stopped. Everybody got up, stopped looking. You know. And then I realized that something was wrong. They know it. I'm trying to think of. Anyway, from there, I guess I went to
Phoenix?
Phoenix, right? Phoenix. It seemed strange. Was there a branch line, or was Tucson before Phoenix?
Yeah, it's a little south of Phoenix, about 100 miles.
Wound up in Phoenix, I think, because someone told me, right, that if you went to, I think I told you that yesterday, the day before, if you went to this kind of field office for people on welfare and told me you were a native of Arizona, they'd almost give you a job in this system, like before WPA, in this system where, you know, you somehow, he said, even though they know you're not from Arizona, what it was in Phoenix, the rest of the country, there was hard times, I guess. Phoenix, there wasn't. It was not for white people at all. And they couldn't get white people to handle these offices where they were giving welfare to Mexicans. Mostly Mexicans. I don't think there were any blacks at all, Mexicans. So they gave me long ago this, I don't remember exactly how it happened. They gave me the papers and the information and so forth to go to this fairgrounds, and they gave you a place to sleep at the fairgrounds, and a meal ticket for some diner nearby or some diner in Phoenix, and $1.25 a weekend. And the job was it was a kind of warehouse too for the clothing that they gave to the Mexicans around welfare. And the client would come up with a notice from the social worker saying he should get a pair of trousers and a shirt. And our job was to, you know, find out what size he wanted, and then to stencil each one with the letters FERA, Federal Emergency Relief Administration. They were denim, and they had to be stenciled in this white, so they couldn't sell them anymore. And the shoes should get stamped on them. And I stayed there for a time. And then I heard there was going to be some construction workers who paid $40 a month in Oakland, outside of Oakland, Arizona. It was right on the Colorado River. It was a Mojave Indian reservation. And they were supposed to build an Indian school. I think at that time, before WPA, they had a thing they called PWA, Public Works Administration. And they were supposed to build this Indian school. They were going to pay $40 a month to get hired. And I know how it went, but if you volunteered to go and get ready, set it up until the money came through, that you get, meantime, you just get something to eat. And so I went up there and I remember correctly, I keep getting mixed up. But anyway, it was an awful long way from Phoenix. It was in northwestern Arizona. And I was there a few months and nothing ever came of it. They just fed us and that was it. Played cards all day, but money didn't come through or something for the Indian school. I went back to Phoenix. Anyway, all I know is I got together $5 for a bus trip to California. I wanted to get out of Phoenix. And in those days, you couldn't hitchhike across the state line. Police would stop you if you were hitchhiking and send you back again. Wouldn't let you into California. You were riding freight train. They shut down every freight train right at the border. Just send you back. You know, you don't. And so I heard that there was this Wildcat bus that would take you into Los Angeles for $5. Oh, in the meantime, I met this man in somewhere in Phoenix or somewhere, and he told me, if you ever come to Los Angeles, he was going, looked me up, he said, you know, don't worry, everything will be all right. So I got this $5 together, I guess, working for the state again, and rode this Wildcat bus for $5. It brought you from Phoenix by way of San Diego, and then up to Los Angeles. You know, you paid $5 to San Diego or to Los Angeles. I remember some long ride. It was an overnight ride. For some reason or other, they left very late at midnight. I don't know whether it was illegal or what it was. Anyway, I wound up in Los Angeles, and I looked up this guy, and his name was Whalen. And he said, well, I'll tell you, here's the setup. He said, you're down to the welfare office, and you sign up under your name. Oh, he knew somebody in the welfare office who would sign you up under my name first to start. Then he said you go back to the same welfare office or different and sign up in somebody else's name and give him the extra one. You know, in the meantime, I'm getting mine.
Oh.
And I said, oh God, I hung around for a few days. I better not be involved. I just not be involved.
Go down and sign for yourself and then forget about the other guy.
Pardon me?
Go down and sign for yourself and forget about the other guy.
Yeah. And then I think I headed for San Francisco. It seemed the time was always going around from one galaxy to another. Nowadays, I think people would think less of going to the moon, I guess, than I thought of that. But anyway, I was hitchhiking. Just showed you how you know, fate goes. We all know little things that would change you. But I was hitchhiking from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and I intended to go to San Francisco, right? And I got some crossroad. I think it went through the San Joaquin Valley. I don't know how we did that. It was one of the coast. And a guy picked me up, and I said I was going to San Francisco. He said, oh, suddenly a thunderstorm came up. He was going to let me off at some turnoff, at some Y in the road. It would have been left to San Francisco, right to Stockton. And this sudden thunderstorm came up. It was terrible. We had lightning, thunder. About the time he should leave me off, so I said, well, I'll go on to Stockton. Okay, so I went to Stockton. And then by that time, I began to realize they had these things set up, like welfare transients, you know. People that run the phone, like inquire there, give you a place to sleep, and if you can read and write or all, you can get a job clerking there. And I don't remember if they paid anything or not. And we got food. Anyway, while there, you know, writing people up as they come in, this man walked in, young man, and John Boyce, turned out he's from Scranton, right near Scranton. And of course we got real friendly. And apparently what it was with him, he'd been married, I think he had a child, 2 children. And he said he got along great with his wife. His mother-in-law was really unbelievable, you know. And he worked for the railroad, so he got a pass to go to California, thought just for a change, and then come back. But he said when he got out as far as California, he liked it so much he tore up the railroad pass, his return ticket. You know. And anyway, there he was on the bum in Stockton. So after a time, I don't know how we could have got the money together, but must have. We took a boat from Stockton to San Francisco. It was a channel of some kind. I don't know, can't imagine what it was or why it was. It was just a channel. There was a boat on, like a ferry boat, and it took you from Stockton. Oh, in the meantime, while in Stockton, I guess I don't know how I could have been doing both, but I did. I remember working the harvest field, picking peas and picking spinach. You know, I don't understand it. This place in Stockton, I do remember being maybe only put in a couple more day a week or something at that kind of stuff. If you want to pick, you know, working for the state, if you wanted any money, you had to go out picking crops. And to pick a lot. Working all day, it would be 30 or 40 cents. And what it was is that I realized after that they when they picked up people like us, you know, bums, you know, for want of a better word, it was after they already had experts like Filipinos go through the field, you know, and we went over second picking, you know. They already went through it, and maybe they didn't get as much for the rate. Anyway, all I remember is the labor contractor was Filipino, and you work all day and 20 or 40 cents. It seemed like 40 cents was the maximum. Oh, I was trying to get enough money to go to San Francisco. But I do remember something else. Even to this day, it frightened me. It seemed like every night, he and I, because he drank some, I guess I drank wine when I was around too. And we used to stop and for 10 cents you'd buy a pint of Muscatel wine. They had in these big barrels. And just they even had furnished a container. And we'd get a pint of this Muscatel wine. And there's a big park in Stockton. I don't forget, palm trees all park. And we drink this Muscatel wine. First thing we fall asleep. Sometimes even sleep all night in the park. And I've done it for a month or two, you know. And if I didn't, whatever it was decided, maybe decided to get out of there. I might have been there yet, you know, or I might have been dead. Just one of those old winehouses. And anyway, we went to San Francisco. I don't remember much about it. I remember being there a few days. And then decided to, I guess I figured it's time to go home. I don't know. By that time, I'd been gone about a year, I guess. And I remember going to go to Oakland, because you couldn't get a freight train out of San Francisco. You had to go to Oakland and pick up a train in Oakland. And in Oakland, in the jungle, were all these bums. Those who would come from the east, come over the mountains, were selling like heavy clothes, heavy socks and stuff. And I just first, it took me a long time to realize what it was. And even things like candles. I think, why candles? And they had candles because going over the mountains or anywhere riding the freight trains, you could go down to these refrigerator cars that didn't have ice in them. So like some products, these peaches, didn't need ice in these compartments on the ends of the freight trains. And you can get into one of those things and, you know, you can ride until for a couple of days, a day. And anyway, somebody said, well, better buy a candle at least, you know. So I bought a big candle, big candle. And this guy, Boyce, and I, we decided to go back to Scranton to get together. And I remember getting the freight train and riding, what comes first? Reno, I guess. Coming over the first mountains, anyway. Out of Oakland, you'd come through. I remember Reno somehow stayed in my mind. I went to the railroad yard is a town place called Sparks. Is it Sparks, Nevada?
Sparks, Nevada, yeah.
And God, coming from my geography is helping bad. But I remember getting off. Anyway, somehow I missed we got split up. I didn't see him, he didn't see me, and I figured, well, I'm going east. So I wanted to wound up in Sparks. And I think for some reason or other, I don't know how far Sparks is from Reno, but I wound up in the town of Reno. I can still remember that courthouse here was famous for divorce.
I think it's
Washoe
just a
County-
suburb
Washoe
of
County
Reno.
Courthouse. And then leaving again anyway, riding freight train. Well, you go through Utah. Anyway, and every time you ride freight trains, you always hear these rumors about this town coming up or some town coming up, that the railroad bulls are just waiting there for you to beat the hell out of you, you know, and you couldn't enjoy the ride. You always think, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, jump off. And anyway, I heard that this town of Helper, Utah, it's a town named Helper, right? That's a guy, I can't forget the name because of this, was tough on people. And anyway, I thought, well, I'll take a chance. And I get off in Helper. Somebody said, oh, no problem here in Helper. Are you down there in that office? And they give you a meal ticket. They give you a place where you go to sleep. And they tell you what time the trains are leaving in the morning, freight train, and you decide what train you're going to take. But you had to be out in 24 hours. You decide what train you want to take, and they'd wake you up in time for that. And anyway, I did that. And headed east in the morning again. And I know the Helper came before Salt Lake or after. Much help before. And I remember at Salt Lake, I think you had to take a train going south to Ogden or vice versa. And one of the few times I met with violence, you know, when the police was, we were waiting for a train in whatever it was Salt Lake to go to Ogden. It was 40 miles on UP or something. And the railroad bull walked up to us. We're all sitting there waiting for the train. And said, boys, I don't want you to get on this next train because it's got valuable merchandise on it. There's a train coming soon after. And you get on that one. So I turned to somebody who was next to me. I said, that sounds fair enough, you know. And the cop turned to me and said, what'd you say? And before you say anything, he hit me with a hit with a billy club with a black hat. I said, oh boy, I learned to keep my mouth shut. Anyway, I waited for the next train and got the train into either Salt Lake or Ogden, and then came east. I remember vaguely. I remember going over the mountains in Colorado. Remember that, riding in a open freight car, the logs on, big logs on, and this guy, there was a couple other guys riding the same thing, you know, alongside the log, saying, boy, if this train ever shifted or they jumped the track a little bit, you know what happened to us with all these logs would be done for, you know. And I couldn't enjoy that. I should have enjoyed it. And I do remember riding in those refrigerator compartments, you know, and it was really, really cold. The candle didn't help because it was an enclosed place, and just the candle made a difference to ease it a little bit, you know. And anyway, after the Recovery Act, where you had to pay someone a minimum 25 cents an hour or 20 cents an hour, and I remember the guy who was in charge, he came to me and said, you'll never be a cutter. He wasn't going to pay me 25 cents an hour while I was learning. And so that killed that job. And they figured, well, John just can't hold a job, you know. Jobs are hard to get. He was lucky he got a job, and there he messed it up. He didn't mess it up. And this guy named, remember Paul Jimmery, Frank?
Yes, I do.
This guy named Paul Jimmery was courting Ray. And he had in those days, they big mining companies subcontracted or would sublease an area, you know. Then the person who subleased in turn would sublease. You'd be down maybe the fourth lessee or leasee, you know. And this Paul Jimmery was way down there. He probably leased after everybody else got through, you know, gave up and things. And anyway, he said, well, you want a job? You got to work with me, you know, and getting coal out. You know? So I went down with, I went to work, I don't know, maybe 3 days, 4 days. He had no equipment at all. You know, those days, even those days, they had mules or something. He had no equipment. Everything was done by hand. He did the, you know, the drilling and the blasting. And we had to load the coal in the cars and then push the car, me and maybe his brother, push the cars up this incline till we got up to the ground level, you know. And I did that about 3 or 4 days. all I remember so well about it is we pushed in the car, and you felt as though the harder you push, the more you're liable to bring the ceiling down on you. You know, you hear creaking and, you know, the sounds coming from the ceiling, and seen from the ceiling, you know. You think, my God, if I push harder, I can bring the whole ceiling down, you know. So I guess the point where I didn't want to push. And anyway, it seemed like he wasn't getting money in the meantime. You know, he had accumulated enough money for it. And between that and the fact that I just didn't like it, I what they think about me, I have to quit. You know, even though other people might be willing to take the job. So I told him I couldn't do it anymore. So then he said, he said he was really. I tried to get around the wrong way. I'm sure. You know. He said, well, look, I've got a brother who's a big chef in New York, and we get you a job in Jamaica, Long Island, I think it was. And so I got the fare together, went to New York to see his brother, and the place where he was the big chef was called the Griddle. And all they saw was hotcakes and coffee. And he was in the window flipping the hotcakes. That's all his job was. Just no more chef. He was a specialist anyway.
What was that?
And he saw me, and I introduced myself. And he said, you know, your brother never let him know even, you know. And I said, he had authority. Just by chance, I guess the dishwasher had quit or something, you know. So they need a dishwasher. So I got a job washing these syrup-covered dishes, you know, and cups, you know. No soup bowls, nothing else. This is monotonous flat plates and cups. Anyway, he was living with he was boarding in this house in I can't think of it, a little Woodside. Now it's right outside of Jamaica. And I wish I could think of the woman's name. Anyway, it don't matter. Anyway, this woman was apparently a widow, or she was separated from her husband. And I just mentioned this because it's important. She was some man named Leonard, I remember, the Italian man, was just her boyfriend. He didn't stay there overnight, he just kept busy all the time. And this Paul's brother, you know, I didn't know where to go to live. Paul's brother said, well, he's bored there, you come in there, pay her $3 a week. I think I was getting $12 a week. Pay her $3 a week, and that's okay. So she got a room for me. And he was a very strange man. I think from that day on, he never talked to me. You know, one thing, I don't think he'd want to be associated with the dishwasher. The only one who feels as though he was. That was the way it was in the restaurant. In all restaurants, the head chef was the top man, and like the army, you know, dishwasher was the bottom, the dishwasher the porter. Very often we were a combination dishwasher and porter. And anyway, I got moved in with this woman, I forget her name, and I worked a few weeks at it. Sometime I left that. I learned somehow that you could go downtown New York on 6th Avenue. There was all these employment agencies in the second floor, where Rockefeller Center is now, maybe, I don't know. It was all in the 40s. There was all these employment agencies, all these signs outside, you know, wanted so-and-so, and so-and-so cook and dishwasher and every kind, truck driver, and, you know, great sound salaries, you know. But when you get up there and you gave them a deposit and it didn't, you know, it didn't amount to anything, you didn't get anything. Anyway, they did always had openings for dishwashers. And if you paid a week's pay, you got a job. And I guess by the time I left that Griddle, I guess I had to save some money. You know, $12 a week, you only paid $3 for board, and you ate pancakes, you'd save money in a few weeks. And I got other jobs anyway, washing dishes. And then I went back to Scranton on a visit. And that was, you know, I should have known then that I wasn't going to make it. But when I left home, I thought, well, I'm going to go to New York. I'll never forget this. There's a columnist, you might have seen his columns, like, oh hell, Mick something.
McIntyre?
McIntyre, right.
McIntyre.
McIntyre used to write for the Daily News or something, you know, and I remember reading one of his columns once, and he said something about if you can't make it, go over to New York, you might as well, you can go to either end of the, you walk either east or west and jump off a pier, because if you can't make it in New York, you can't make it anywhere. So I thought, well, that's settled, you know, and old McIntyre said that, I can go to New York and I can make it. But then I kept trying one dishwashing job after another, and you know, you get so busy, so it was so frustrating, you just quit in the middle of it. You know, before you even earned hardly enough to pay the employment agency again, or just about enough, you know. And either that or the manager of the restaurant working in cahoots with the agency would have you fired in a couple of weeks and you go back for another job, you know. I forget what I said. Hey, I went back to Scranton. But I didn't go back with a fortune. I was going to rescue the family, you know. I didn't have any money. I thought, well, it's going to begin. And I ran into this guy Boyce again, and he wanted to know what I was doing and that kind of stuff. And I told him, you know, I'm getting $12 a week washing dishes, and he goes, "Could I get a job?" Sure. He was at the gas station. And so he came down with me, and he got a job washing dishes. The first payday he got, his first payday, he said, well, let's celebrate, let's go out and do something to drink. So we went out, and we were out, so I think I was off the next day, and so was he. We were out. I got him a room with this Mrs. So-and-so, too. And that night we got back late, and we were standing, we were ready to go into the house, and somebody called and asked for information, some guy. And I guess they were half drunk too, and they offered us a drink out of a bottle, and we took a drink. First you got to talking and arguing, and this landlady, I forgot her name, put her head out the door and said, first thing tomorrow morning, I want you two bums out of here, you know. Just, and so I thought, well, that's it. So in the morning I got up early, and this guy Boyce said, what are we going to do? I said, well, I don't know. I remember being in New York visiting a guy I'd met in Arizona, named Tommy Sheldrick, maybe a year before, and he had a room on 22nd Street, right off 8th Avenue. I thought, well, I know there's rooms on 22nd Street. That's how this is. I had no idea there's furnished rooms all over New York, signs everywhere. I thought 22nd Street, right off 8th Avenue. So I went down there, and I don't know what it was, but I was just, you know, conscious of coming from a small town. I felt as though, you know, I'm not a New Yorker, you know. But I just ordinarily wouldn't have had enough nerve to say no to anybody who showed me a room, you know. I'd just say, yes, I'll take it without even seeing it. Here, take my money, you know. And, but for some reason I didn't. Because every landlady I went to, they were almost like these rooming house women you see in movies, you know. Kind of the older woman, you know, and growling all the time, never a smile on her face, you know. And so I turned down 2 or 3 of them on 22nd Street. And I thought, geez, I got to find a place somewhere. So I went down 21st Street, between 6th and 7th, and I turned on one there. Again, and I don't know, you know, looking back on it, I know I wouldn't ordinarily do that. And anyway, the next one I went to, I rang the bell, it's a furnished room, and this woman opened the door, big smile on her face, this girl was May. It was May, you know.
Is that right?
Yeah, right. And there she was, you know, she never used makeup at all. It was rosy cheeks. She looked like somebody just from out of the country, you know, to me. But I had a big smile instead of be frowning at this woman. She says, yes, I got a room, you know. And I thought, oh my God, this is great, you know. So I took a room, and this guy, Boyce, moved in with me.
John, our tape is at an end.
I have some more tape upstairs.
No, you're in the
John,
No, that's a good